All right, so Ben, I had the opportunity to play with your paddle, the new. What is the name of the actual paddle?
The I know we have a lot of names at Yolo. We had the Hyperion, Perseus, Scorpius. So this one is the 2024 Perseus Gen 3 paddle. Mine would be the 16 millimeter version.
Okay, so the Gen 3 is really the
Gen
name
3,
of this.
yeah.
Really, we're going after shape conventions is the name. So Perseus is the squared off top. The Hyperion is the original arrow curve.
Yeah.
The
Scorpius is the 16 by 8.
Right, the wider square
body,
version,
yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
Colin
Yeah.
and Anna.
And then within each shape category, via the name, you have the 14 millimeter and the 16 millimeter, and the new technology is referred to as Gen 3.
Got it. So this is the Gen 3, and Gen 2 was thermoform. First one was carbon fiber sandwich construction, and now in Gen 3, we're having a little bit of almost flex. Is that fair to say? Is that the difference?
For sure. I'd say that the ball is definitely compressing on the paddle for longer, and it's certainly returning a good amount of energy. So returning energy is good for velocity, and compressing the ball, remaining on the paddle for a long time is definitely people associate with control. So it's two things. They also associate it with spin.
Yeah, and so the grit, I was going to get to that. The grit, how do we get consistency in grit? Because it feels like some paddles I feel are...
Yeah, well, you can get spin in a number of ways. You can get it from surface roughness, which is just basically coefficient of friction with the ball. You can even get spin with coefficients of friction that don't feel rough. You can get that with rubber. Rubber doesn't feel rough, but it's going to grip a wiffle ball super well, even though we're not allowed to use rubber. Then you can get it from an increased dwell time. That's how we think of like string beds, right? That's a ton of dwell time and a ton of spin. And you can get dwell time with even making a paddle thicker. In this case, you're getting it because the ball's compressing more. So yeah, there's a number of ways to get spin. This primarily, like the grit is similar to previous versions. So that is not changing the spin a lot. What's changing the spin a lot is the increased compression. So remaining on the paddle for longer is going to get you more spin in this case.
So the power is the big thing. That I think it's the combination of the spin and the power, and that allows people to take just bigger
massive
strokes.
swings and keep the ball in.
Yeah. Right? You
Yeah,
know where I'm going with
the
this.
ball.
So
Yep.
tennis players are coming in and able to hit balls that weren't ordinarily able to be hit.
Yeah, a lot of people definitely think it's tennis player swings, and I tell them we've had really good tennis players in pickleball for 6-7 years, and they weren't hitting balls like that. It's not because there's different types of tennis players; it's that it's different technologies. So if you hand anybody a paddle from 2018 or earlier, their swing path is going to take the ball into the bottom of the net, if not even lower. So yeah, it's definitely technology changing things, and when you give any player with a good swing, a paddle like this, they're going to be able to hit some massive ground strokes. No question about it.
Yeah, and I'd say even 2021 probably the ball's going over the fence. You couldn't grip it like that.
Yeah, we had an influx of better spin earlier on than we did with power, and certainly not the combination of two until like this year and maybe last year. So early on, I'd say the earliest I saw really good spin was 2020. And then the earliest I've seen really good power was last year. And the combination of the two has been late last year and early this year.
Yeah. And so is that good for the game?
Good for the game. I think it's definitely, like I always say about pickleball, you don't want to make hasty decisions because the sport has done a phenomenal job of developing on its own naturally, and being the amazing sport that it is. So I'm not one to make hasty decisions about this is how the game should be, I think we're going to find out, and the only way to find out is to let the game advance until you are sure that you're arriving at the right decision. And that's a roundabout way of saying we're getting more towards the final point. I know we're getting closer to that, and at some final point, we're going to realize, okay, we've gone too far. Let's ratchet it back a little bit. Is this time that time? I don't know yet. We're going to have to see, but we are certainly getting closer to that point.
So I see your brother wearing protective lenses now,
and a number of other players. Yeah.
When are we going to see you out there with?
Yola is currently working on some glasses. I've never liked glasses just because of peripheral vision reasons. But if they make me something that I don't notice anymore, then I'll start wearing them, because if I don't notice them, there's no reason not to be protected.
Yeah. Is it a good thing to? I feel like symbolically seeing people, professionals wearing eye protection, and we see Anna Lee playing with you, we see Colin playing with you, and optics of it. I worry that it sends the wrong message that this is a dangerous game. You could lose vision in an eye.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could argue that, but I mean, on the other hand, I think people take all manner of precautions that a lot would deem unnecessary or very unlikely, and it's still like, hey, it's better to be safe than sorry. So you can certainly look at it like that, but I don't think it's not shocking to anyone that it's been an influx recently, and that is definitely due to paddles getting more powerful. It's not because players are getting more powerful; it's definitely paddles. And yeah, like I said, I think we're going to hit a point to where we realize this is too much, and it will be ratcheted back, and you'll have to probably experiment a number of times before you hit the appropriate perfect limit, right? But the only way to find that perfect limit is to go too far. You got to push the envelope first. So again, are we there yet? I don't know, but I'm sure we'll find out in the next year, 2 years, 3 years.
So you say that, and I appreciate the tone in which you say it, but it does have real consequences, right?
Mhm.
People are getting hit in the eye. And there's
Right,
real
right. That's not a
consequences,
good
right?
thing.
So if
Yeah.
you're one of those people, like as a parent, right, and
Mhm.
you start to see, you hear stories anecdotally, oh, so and so got hit in the eye, had a detached retina or
Yeah.
an abrasion to the eye, and like all of a sudden you start to think, well, maybe they shouldn't play this game,
Right.
and that's my biggest concern for the health and growth of the game.
Yeah.
So where does that lie? Like who? It's not your job, and I'm not in any way saying it's on you, but who makes these decisions? You're an important voice in this game.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting difference between the pro game and between the public game. I think, candidly, amateurs are more dangerous with really powerful paddles than pros are. I think pros. It's more about what is the view of the game professionally, not from an injury standpoint, but more from a does this make entertaining points? Does this get you fans, right? Does this get people watching pickleball? That perfect medium has yet to be found, and I think we're getting closer to it, and I'm really interested in that part of it. So that's where the Pro Tour and the players have a huge say. Like, these are optimal points for viewers. These are optimal for watching. It's not really a safety concern. Honestly, I think pros wearing safety goggles, safety glasses is a good thing, but they're less likely to get injured than an amateur is. Even though pros are hitting it harder, they have way more control over the ball. You know what they're doing most of the time. And the same can't be said for amateurs. So I think it's the PPA's job to find what is most entertaining for people. And that's probably it's not tennis rackets. We know that. It's not wooden paddles. We know that. It's somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're going to find that eventually. Same goes for spin even. There's a sweet spot there for maximally entertaining points. And then it's probably the overall pickleball governing body to decide what is good for the public, right? And that same goes for them. Mostly it's more focused on power than spin. I think spin is more fun than anything. It's clearly not dangerous, but because amateurs would be in the most danger, I guess, with powerful paddles, it's up to them to define what those limits are. And again, we'll get closer to that, but as the old saying goes, things don't change until somebody gets hurt, unfortunately. So again, I don't think we're there yet. I think we're figuring out where the limit should be, and I would make a clear distinction between defining a limit for the pro game and defining a limit for the public.
So watching this weekend, not your typical weekend, right? Like
Unusual weekend.
It was an unusual weekend. I watched you play Jack.
Jack Sock, yeah.
And you look like you were having more fun than I've ever seen you out on the pickleball course.
Sure. It was very fun. I really appreciate somebody of Jack's caliber and an athlete, and even though he's very competitive, clearly you would not be playing pickleball after a phenomenal tennis career unless you did it for fun, right? You don't need pickleball for any reason. A lot of people do it for their careers, and they're very serious about it, right? When it's your job, you have to be serious. You have to be entirely competitive and serious in order to win. With Jack, it's like, yes, I want to win. Yes, I'm competitive, but I don't need to win, right? So he takes it a little less serious, and he has more fun than almost anybody playing. And I got into pickleball when it wasn't a career. I had started playing pickleball when it was just fun. And I did that for years. Like, I didn't even consider it a possible career until like 2021. And even then I was like, yeah, maybe. I'm probably still going to college and getting a real job after this. So I grew up with pickleball essentially as it just being fun. So Jack kind of brings back that vibe for me. But when I'm around all serious pros that are doing it as their job, it makes it more serious for me. And that's fine too. I enjoy being serious, and that's great. But Jack bringing back an old feeling of it mostly being for fun was very fun. It's nice.
First of all, I'll just say I loved it. And seeing you happy out there makes me happy. It makes, I think, the fans happy.
Sure.
Because you're I don't want to say robotic, but you're methodical out there.
Yeah, when I'm there to do a job, and I'm there to win.
Yeah. Talk me through the left-handed point.
So at the last tournament in Arizona, before that, Jack and I played some lefty points. We didn't play singles; we were playing doubles actually. He saw me doing it. He's like, "I want to get in on that." So he came over and we hit lefty for a bit. And I saw him at I think it was 6-2 in game 3. After like a timeout or the side switch, he was kind of messing around with his left hand. His paddle was in there. He's just kind of flicking it back and forth. I was like, "Oh, you want one?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it if you do it." So I said, "Okay, let's do it."
You didn't want to pull the fast one. You didn't even have a chance to pull a fast one on him. I thought maybe he'd hit it back. He didn't get it over the net. I thought maybe he'd get it back, then you'd switch.
You do not disrespect lefty rules. That would be complete dishonor. That would be worse than a hook line call.
It's like a samurai, the code of the samurai.
Absolutely. It's like they would never fight 1-on-2. You had to fight 1-on-1 only. They had honor and respect, and that's what I demand above all other things in pickleball. You have to have honor and respect.
Love it. All right, Ben, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.